October 16th at 7 o'clock. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Brookover?
Here.
Mr. Bricker?
Here.
Ms. Cunningham?
Here.
Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Hayward?
Here.
Ms. McWinney? Here. Mr. Rush?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Councilman Browning?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Here.
Chairwoman Lash?
Here. Are we missing anyone?
No.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was July 17th? And as a reminder, if you were not here, if you read them, that's
Motion
okay
to
too.
approve. Second.
Can you call roll, please?
Mr. Brookover?
Abstain.
Mr. Bricker?
Yes.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. McWinney?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Councilman Browning?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Yes.
Chairwoman Lash?
Yes. Moving on to public comments, but it looks like we don't have any tonight. So we will move on to the update of the YMCA.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello.
I think the last report you received was from August, maybe,
It's September.
September?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Just to cover a few things, we do have a Halloween event coming up on the 27th of October. We need many volunteers at the building control. We're expecting between 900 and 1,000 people to show up that day. So if anybody would like to volunteer, please reach out to Roger Hanneman. He's heading this up.
What time does it run?
Starts at 4 to 6 or 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
The main need is primarily in the beginning and at the end. Cleanup is pretty hectic, so as much help as we can get would be greatly appreciated. Secondly, we do have some staff changes. As of Monday, I am no longer the exec at Delaware. I'm the regional director of youth sports for Region 2. So this will be my last meeting.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. The interim executive director will be Elizabeth Zingali. And she will be attending some of these meetings, but you'll probably see Roger or Jake, someone in that realm that's used to it and can handle it. So at this point, I'm not sure who it will be, but we've grown a little bit. Our association has, and we're moving some people around. So I appreciate all you guys' efforts and what you've done to support us and the things that we've done. And if I can be of any assistance anytime, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll still be around, still housed out of Delaware. I'll be trying a little bit more.
Good for you.
Congratulations.
We'll miss you.
We'll miss you now.
What region, what's the geographical area?
My region is Liberty, Delaware, Marysville, Hilliker, and Camp Wilson.
Cool. Fun. That's a lot.
But we'll still see you at the Delaware Y.
On occasion. I'm very fortunate that the Delaware sports programs are pretty much up and running as they should. So I've got to get to these other branches and see what I can do to help it.
Oh, we wish you all the kinds of luck that we can offer. So
Thank you.
you've done a good job for the Y, and they couldn't ask for a better person to do the job. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Matt Bruns is actually taking a new role as well. So he will be, I can't remember what his title is, but he's in philanthropy now. He will be in development. He's actually doing a big portion of raising the money for the Lewis Center Y that's coming on. So that is his new job. So he will be in and out as much as he can. So
And where's the Lewis Center Y going to be?
it's on Orange Road. I can't exactly tell you. It's a new housing development that's going in there. Hopefully in the next 2 years it'll be.
Orange Road or Lewis Center Road?
Orange Road or Lewis Center Road?
That was Orange Road.
Yeah, I thought it was maybe, I heard something about a Y being affiliated with that new Evans Farm.
Yeah, that's
Is
Lewis
that,
Center
yeah,
Road.
that's Lewis Center
Okay,
Road.
Evans
Yeah.
Farm.
Yeah.
I thought so, because I work on Orange Road and I'm thinking, where in the world are you going to squeeze that in?
Oh, that's fine, room.
That's true. Good point.
Any other questions? Anything I can answer for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy. Good luck to you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Updates of the parks.
I'm going to refer to that, all the staff comments. I'll just put it all together in one there.
Okay. So then discussion of shelter rental policies.
We included a new shelter rental policy, and basically what we're looking at changing is the weekend block rentals from 60 to 70, and then the other weekend from 120 to 130. Basically, that's to cover. We moved to a new Jim Dandy online rental, and we incur some fees with that, with the credit card fees and the online rental fees. So we wanted to up our fees to take care of those fees. That online rental has been real successful. I'll talk about that a little bit later today too. So, we're still in line with other areas. And the other change on that was it. We updated some of our rules and everything in there just to meet or to match our ordinances. So that was the big changes to that. Any comments on that?
Okay. We'll move on to athletic field policy.
So we also included an athletic field policy. This is our first draft of this. And what spurred this is we are looking at more and more, I want to say like travel teams and tournament type teams that are looking at getting field space. What we wanted to outline in this was that our field space, the first priority is for our local youth and local teams that are inclusive, that aren't travel teams, anything like that, and just kind of set up these categories. And this isn't unusual. We looked at other municipalities and how they separate out how they organize their field use, and so we're kind of following that, and then basically setting the priorities from the youth and then on to local travel teams, I guess you could say, and then to other travel teams, so that we really focus on getting, because we're going to get to a point where we're not going to have enough field space, and we want to make sure that the youth and our city youth are using the field space first, and they have priorities over that. So that's kind of this outline of this policy. So again, it's the first draft, so I wanted to get any comments you had, and then once we get it finalized, we'll bring it back to this board also. So if there's any comments, I'd love to hear those now.
How do you define inclusive? How do you define it? I guess when I read it, like for example, under fees, second priority, there will be no rental fee for inclusive sports programs. What's an inclusive sports program?
Inclusive is going to be, there's basically no cuts. So if 40 kids show up and we want 10 per team, we're going to have 4 teams. And basically there's every kid has the opportunity to play in that league or that sport. So I can put a definitions in there so we can clearly define.
And honestly, maybe they know what it means. I was just kind of looking at it like, well.
No, I think it'd be good. And whether it's at the end of that, and that wouldn't be the only definition that would probably be needed. But basically it's we want to make sure so if we have more than, we have 5 coaches and we have 5 teams and we get more than 5 teams, then we need to add another coach. It's because we don't want to turn any kid away.
So the parameters aren't set by municipality they're from, it's just cut overall. As far as they don't have to be in Delaware, they can live in.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten away from that, where if you remember the Little League controversy that I think we discussed that at the last meeting. Some of the parents, they want to play in a more competitive league, and maybe we didn't discuss that because it kind of came up recently. So we had some discussion with a group that wanted to start a Little League in Delaware, and part of the Little League rules are that they can kind of form their own teams. And the way our baseball's set up right now is we are all inclusive. So everybody that signs up for baseball gets on a team and plays baseball. And we want to keep it that way. But I mean, it's not that we're not willing to change. It's just that's our kind of our underlying goal is that everybody plays. So we worked with the Little League and trying to see if that we can adapt some of our rules to fit that Little League rules. They didn't really agree with how we wanted to keep running our program. So we kind of are at an impasse right now where they may go out and try to start their own Little League, but a lot of the kids that want to play in that type of league just go to a county league where there are cuts right now, or those teams will cut, and it's sporadic how it is. But then the other option after that, if you want to be even more competitive, is you can go to a more ultra travel team where you may play all your games, not necessarily in this region. They may be out of state and all that. So there are other options out there. We don't feel that we're to the point where we can offer that, or that we want to offer that ultra competitive or that cut at this point. So, but we may change in the future, but at this point, that's where we are with that.
Any other questions about that? Do you need updates on the athletic field policy? I mean,
If you have any, and if you have other comments later on, but again, like I said, we'll get this thing to a final point and then bring it back.
So is there a window of time where people how do you prioritize? I mean, I get the priorities. I'm not articulating clearly. Is there a window of time where people request the field and then you sort through how you?
That's one of the things we're going to establish in the policy.
Okay.
Is right now we do it twice a year. We
Okay.
have 2 meetings where we bring in all the groups that we know of and make sure that we can accommodate, or make sure that they get their field space on the days they want and the times they want, and basically get everybody in a room and hash it out. And we may go to once a year and bring everybody in, and then we may have a second meeting where we have teams that want field space, the travel teams that want field space, and say, we have these times left available, you can use it here.
Yeah.
So
I definitely can see getting to the place where there's no more availability. I mean, I just
Yes.
think the way that we're growing.
we're getting there close.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But again, we want to make sure that the youth programs that we prioritize get first dibs at the field space. And there's times that we can use other times. So we're going to be trying to get more efficient and probably utilizing our fields even more with some of the travel teams that are coming in and seeing space, because we've had requests on a lot of those.
And Ted, what's the difference between second and third priority on the fees?
But with fees or with the user groups?
Under the fees? Maybe that's under the user groups.
Oh, yeah, there is a fees too. Okay. So based on the second and first priorities, so if you are a second priority where you're basically a Delaware-based youth sports association, City of Delaware public and private schools and their affiliated programs, there will be no fee involved, but there are City of Delaware based programs that may be, they have cuts, so that they're at that point there may be a fee involved with that, where they're more travel teams, I guess is one word that is used a lot. They're more travel teams. So we're looking at instituting a fee for some of those travel teams. Their fees go up too, and that's one of the things that with our baseball program, our fees are relatively low, and we want to keep them there so as many people can afford to do it. When you start getting in more travel teams, you have better coaches. I shouldn't say better, but you have highly more skilled coaches, and they sometimes get paid in some of those travel teams. So we wanted to look at possibly instituting a fee for some of those, and that's not unusual. There are some youth associations that are inclusive that they get charged fees in other districts. So right now, the city of Delaware, like our soccer, we don't charge any fees for our soccer associations, and baseball, and we have no fees involved in that.
I don't know. I'm sure you have all your ducks in a row. If there's anything that I can do to help, Dublin does what's called Diamond Divvy every year. It's usually the first week of January.
Yeah.
They do it once a year. They have a big calendar that's probably 5 feet long
Yeah.
that has every day, and it says this is when Dublin Soccer League season begins, their permit season begins, this is when it ends. Here's some camps that are going on, or maybe a tournament that's coming in, or whatever it is. But same thing to your point, where they sit down and say, kind of hash everything out of these dates work for you, yes, no, we've got this going on. There's usually representatives of parks there that talk about maybe any maintenance projects that they'll be doing throughout the year. Just kind of along that process, but I mean, anything that I can do to share.
And we've used part of Dublin's in here, but that's one of the reasons we're looking at doing is an annual, just at the January doing that. Because one of the things we're running into is like the soccer program, well, they want to start a week earlier now. And so we really need to define those dates, when they start, when they end, so that the next sports can come in and looking at, how are our fields recovering in this time period. So, and just pinning everybody down to that, because it seems like they're changing. They're extending their seasons at the end and the beginning now.
Any other comments or questions about the field policy? Okay. We'll move on to capital improvement plan.
I just wanted to bring this up. We just got through running through our capital improvement budgets, and so within our park impact fee improvement funds, we are looking at, and typically in the past this has gone towards a lot of trail improvements, but we're trying to open that up to other park improvements. And this year we're looking at beginning design phases of the Central Avenue, which I'll talk about a little bit later tonight too. That remaining segment of trail, getting some survey work done for that. That was where we devoted some capital improvement funds and some design work. The other where we're looking at some community park improvements, and that is at Ross Street. Those have kind of been carried over again. We've had those on the books, but things have been delayed there. So we're looking at the Ross Street parkland expansion, which includes building demo, and then also some improvements to that park. If you remember, we took some surveys at some of the groups out there, and looking at more passive park amenities in that park. So we'll be looking at instituting those in 2019. The other is in our parks budget, our CIP budget. That typically goes for a lot of playground replacement. So we cycle playgrounds. We usually try to get, the manufacturers usually suggest 15 years. So we get a little bit more, usually 16, 17, sometimes 18 years out of them, just depending on how they wear. And the parks that we're looking at, East Side, future Bennett Park, Lexington Glen, and Nottingham, getting some park improvements, replacing some playground equipment there. And then Willowbrook Park is still on there. It's been on there several years, and we're looking at moving that project forward. I don't know if you're aware, Cactus or Boulevard. It's not Cactus. It's next to the Y. That new boulevard that's there. They've started Boulder Drive. They've started construction of that. And part of that includes a trail along that Willowbrook Park area.
Did you get Cactus and Boulder?
I know. I don't know how I got those mixed up. I'm probably not explaining myself what this park is. You guys, everyone aware where this is? Okay. You know what? I could bring
Is
that
it across from the Y?
Right next to it.
Okay.
Yeah, now you know the street.
Yeah, just north of the Y. On Half Road.
The one that's not yet a park.
Correct.
Yes,
Oh, then I do know.
I know where.
It's across the street. It's across the street.
This will probably help.
Oh, not the one with the natural
Now I'm
play
never
area
gonna
and
call
stuff.
that the right street.
I know.
Okay, so.
Forever known as Cactus Boulevard.
I don't think so.
Because we have so
Two
many
in that area?
Southwest name titled streets in Delaware.
You don't have it, I don't think it's turned on.
So.
The
Boulder Drive coming through here. This is the Willowbrook site that we presented a concept plan. So we've got this area back here. We looked at some inclusive play or, some natural play areas in here. But we also looked at a 1 mile loop around the entire park.
Yes.
Part of that is going to be going in with this boulevard that gets extended to here. The developer's going to pay for that section of it, so we want to use those funds to kind of complete that loop around there. And we're also with this discussion with the schools that may, we're looking at that site. The field is still kind of in, what's going to happen with this area, how that's going to be programmed, we're still looking at. But the woods will remain, and that's where we might do some natural play areas and possibly some, we looked at some obstacle course type runs in there. So I think that would go hand in hand with the Y right there. But that gives you some idea where we're talking about.
We talked about it before, though, it didn't have a name.
No,
What
it
is
didn't.
Willowbrook? What is the?
Yeah, Willowbrook's kind of the name that's been tagged on that from the beginning because
Oh.
it's in the Willowbrook section. So, and that's the problem with tagging these. The names kind of end up sticking sometimes. So this might be an opportunity where we try to use our park name policy and maybe come up with a better name for it. So yeah, that's that's our CIP funds. We'll be looking at doing. And then as we move forward, what we would like to do is try to. We have some trail projects coming up too, that we would like to leverage some of the CIP funds for some trails, particularly on Central Avenue, and then also on the Olentangy Trail, which would be on the south along Stratford Road. So we would like to, and that would be looking at like 2020, 2021 on those.
So where would that go? The one on Stratford?
The one on Stratford would be.
Would that continue from, what is that, Olentangy Avenue?
So the one we're looking at in the immediate future is we have the Coughlin Crossing development going in, which is right here. And they're going to be building a trail right along Stratford here down to the new Meeker Way.
Yep.
So what this project would involve is picking it up at Meeker Way, coming down to that sewer line, the / bridge we have going across Olentangy, putting a guardrail on that, getting across there underneath 23 bridge, and then coming up on the, I guess it'd be the west side of 23. That gets into Liberty Township. So we've been working with Liberty Township, and they would continue, it'd be a joint grant application, a joint project, and that would continue on up until you get to, it's at Taggart. I'm not sure if that's, it's not Chapman. Yeah, it is Chapman. Get to Chapman Road. And then from there, it would be an on-road or shared road trail, but that would be part of the Olentangy Trail that would hopefully eventually connect to downtown Columbus.
Wow. So go further north. What are you gonna do?
Past Coughlin's?
Yeah. What are you,
Well, per our
because you've got a
trail-
lot of walkers.
I know. Per our bike trail plan, we are looking at, this would extend up to Olentangy Avenue, and once we get to Olentangy Avenue, we could connect into this trail that we have here now.
But that's not in your 2020 plan?
Not yet.
Why?
Well, it may get moved up earlier, but there's so many priorities. I mean, it's trying to prioritize what are.
Okay, because they've kind of created their own.
I know.
Okay.
For that might even change. I mean, there's no reason, I mean,
I
we
hope
may
so.
look at this again next year and say.
Because a
like,
long
this is
time
kind of
ago,
hard.
that was included
It's
in
definitely
whatever
in there.
road improvement was passed way back when I lived off of that road in 2001. Then there was never a paved trail. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there was a roads thing back then,
Oh, yeah, okay.
but
But it's definitely in our pedestrian master plan and our bike plan. And, with all these apartments down there, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic
I
that
know I'd
uses
kind of
that.
make them pay for it. No kidding. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely is something that, it's definitely on the radar. So yeah, and this trail is a regional trail. I'm part of the Central Ohio Greenways Committee, and this Olentangy River Trail is part of a regional trail network. So it would favor highly on grant applications. So we definitely like to move forward with that. Plus, it would connect Delaware to through to basically the Olentangy Trail, which was one of the more popular trails in Central Ohio.
So then once you get closer to like Lewis Center, is that Orange Township? Does it go from Liberty to Orange? Or is
It
there
pretty much stays in
one-
Liberty for most of the way.
Okay.
The biggest roadblock, if you look at the larger, the context, is once you get to Orange Road, I believe. And then
Because there's another trail system in there
I'm the wrong.
with the bridge that went over 23 by Orange Library. I just wondered how it would tie into that.
How that would tie in is that what you're talking about is right here.
Yeah,
That would tie in through a home road trail.
okay.
That Liberty Township has on their plan, and it would come through there. But then also, we basically utilize these low volume streets, Chapman and Taggart's, on the east side of Olentangy River.
Got it.
Once you get to Orange Road, there's a kind of a hang up, but there's some alternate routes where you get through here. But once it gets into High Banks, then it's basically going to be downtown Delaware or downtown Columbus. It's kind of exciting. I mean, regionally, it would be put us on the map.
It's been talked about for a really long time.
Yeah.
So it's good to see it.
So that primarily would be along the river?
Mm-hmm. Which is gorgeous along some of those roads. I don't know if you've been down those.
Yeah, I know where that area.
A lot of people bike on there now.
Yeah, but it would be a dedicated path off the road.
Yeah, that would be the tough part, is to try to whether there's a bike lane. It's not a very wide road, so
Right.
it would have to work with Liberty Township. It's not really in our jurisdiction, but Liberty Township would see how to best handle that. And maybe there's some speed limits, some lower speed limits instituted. I'm not sure.
It amazes me how many cyclists are on 23 now.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's unreal. I see runners on
Yeah.
23.
Yeah, in the morning I do. So I can definitely tell you it's needed. Not that we didn't know it, but
Yeah.
That would be really cool to connect to this.
And so do bicyclists too sometimes.
Any other questions about the plan?
Yeah, and that's going to be narrow road.
Okay, we'll move on to the Oak Grove Cemetery Master Plan.
Okay, I'm gonna jump into this PowerPoint. I want to just give you an update on the cemetery master plan. So we've been working on the cemetery master plan, and we are getting closer. So our consultant, we'll be using its consultant. So I wanted to show you some of these concepts. So we've got some elements that we're looking at in the cemetery itself. So we have the barn, and just to give you some reference on that, we'll use this. So as coming down Sandusky, the main entrance to the Oak Grove Cemetery, this is the barn where it sits, right up in here, right next to her there. So one of the things we wanted to look at, are we utilizing this barn as much as we can? What are other options? And one of the things we thought was, could it be a catering facility? So the consultant looked at how we do that. We have our existing maintenance building right here now, which kind of isn't the best side-by-side use. So this concept just kind of utilizes the barn and then kind of puts a patio in front, and when I say catering facility, it could be with burial ceremonies. It could be related. It could also just be a catering facility, but that can be a very expensive option when you renovate a barn, especially. I mean, that the money can really get up there. So they just kind of briefly looked at it, and this concept looks at just kind of a courtyard area, some outdoor space around there. And at this point, I don't think it's something that the demand is. I don't think we have the biggest demand for it, especially with the amount of money that we'd have to put into it to make it more of a catering facility. The entrance area was another area we wanted to take another look at. We have a large pavement area out there, and we have the house. There's an existing house that's there now. Let me pop into this review. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but so we have that house that's there now. It's kind of in some disrepair. We've estimated it's probably going to be anywhere from 75 to 100,000 to kind of get it up to speed to rent out, and is an appropriate use. In past times it definitely has, because a lot of the cemetery business, when it was a private industry, they lived there and they worked out of there, and you had your offices in there. That's no longer the case anymore. So we're looking at options where it can be, maybe we demolish the house and turn that space into some, they put in some columbariums, some decorative landscape islands. There's all kinds of these different options here. Trying to read. The scatter gardens is another option in there, but we have some options in there, and also to make it an attractive feature as you pull into the cemetery instead of that house. So we are looking at some of these concepts. I think what we kind of like is this concept here, this one on the bottom right, where we put some columbariums and some burial spaces into a garden type setting in here, and then also put some information kiosks out front to help people that are looking for burial plots. How do they get in contact with the city, and how do they, what's available out there. So I think we can turn what's kind of an eyesore into a positive out there, and really dress it up. One of the things I want to go back to a little bit is this picture is the original entrance of the cemetery. It'd be awesome to do that right now, but I don't know if that's going to be in our budget. But that was what the Oak Grove Cemetery used to look like. You still see the house back there. That's kind of a cool entrance.
What year was that?
It looks like, I don't know if that's 1873 up there on the top, but yeah, I don't know when it was torn down, but it'd be really neat if it was still there.
Deteriorated, I guess.
Ted, have you weighed the option of what it's going to cost to demolish the house, and then the cost of building something new versus the cost of renovating and then trying to make some money on the property?
Yeah, the biggest thing that we're seeing in that is, like I was saying, those renovation costs, and then getting rental fees in is not going to be a big number coming back. But what is going to be kind of a big number is the burial spaces, the columbariums, the scatter gardens that we could incorporate into that space. And it's kind of a prime space too, right in the front, and also the help station, like the kiosk and everything, it's a very attractive area that we can add this to the front of the cemetery. So we think that's our best option, is to kind of put some of those gardens in there, and that's kind of what our consultants kind of helping us with too. Yeah, I mean, in past times the house did definitely have a purpose there, but business models have changed, and we're kind of adapting out there right now.
It's just not a very quiet area. Like, I run back there all of the time, and it's loud in the front. And me personally, I wouldn't want to do anything for an extended period of time that close to Sandusky.
Okay.
Because it's a lot louder.
Yeah, you're definitely.
It's not, it doesn't feel private to me. I mean, and maybe there would be some landscaping that could assist with that. I like the idea of an entrance. I think that would be really neat. I would just hesitate to make it something where I wouldn't want to visit a relative or, in that space.
Okay. Yeah, and the other option we talked about up there is maybe even like a comfort station up there. As we have these services, we don't really have a good place for it right now, but this would not. I'll show you some other areas that we're looking at too. That so the site expansion, if you're familiar, is in the rear.
Yeah.
Let me go back
It's
here.
huge back there.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
pretty good space back here. So.
Yeah.
To the west, in the back by Liberty Road, we have, it's basically, we're leaving that woodland alone. So basically this area has our expansion area. So instead of just going in the roads, I think we talked about, this, let me backtrack a little bit. So this area, the cemetery from here, it's kind of the old section where, they have curvilinear roads. It's got a lot of character. And then we kind of got into the section where they just kind of got a little more linear and kind of kept things categorized. And so we really like this section. So we wanted to kind of mimic that a little bit more back here in this section, but we also just didn't want to, they got to this point right here and then they started just plotting outlines. It's just kind of straight and everything. And, this old style is like, they just kind of, they curve these roads around. They had some more topography to deal with up front too, but in the back, we'd like to kind of mimic that style and kind of make it a little more, give it the character that the front has. So our consultant looked at these options for us. So we one of them, we have this concept of one, we have a pond in there. And just burial sites, just like a house site, when you're in front of a pond, you gotta have more value on a burial site. So we factor that into the cost of, maintenance. And then this is what's gonna be coming next with our master plan is if, by putting this pond in, first off, does it serve a stormwater function? Second, does it, how does it factor into our long-term maintenance of this thing? Does the fees that we get from putting this pond in, allow us to, does it justify putting the work and the money into that pond? And so they also added some more of these columbariums, and it gets back to kind of what talking about earlier with having a nice setting. This columbarium would be a lot quieter, even though our views to the west are something we need to work on. We're aware of that with some buffer areas. And setting this area up and putting in some of these nice scatter garden spaces, like up here, and then just kind of making it more of a park-like setting where it's not just a cemetery that we, and as you talked about, you go back there and run. It's a great place to run.
It is.
So we want to, in cemeteries, that's how they started out. They were parks. So they served multifunction. So this concept just kind of takes the pond out. It still incorporates the curvilinear streets. The one thing we like about this second concept is we didn't want to line our drive up with the factory next door. We just didn't think that was right. We wanted kind of our own entrance. So we may incorporate items from each of these concepts. But one of the things we liked is our entrance separate, because then we can kind of set it off a little bit. And, didn't really want to share a cross entrance with the use next door. We definitely want to put some more buffer in on this area to protect those views. Because what we found out is people go back there and look at these sites, and it's a very sentimental moment. And you don't really want. I know that people aren't looking, but looking at that space next door, it's not the most attractive. So if we can put that buffer in and make this area attractive, it really adds to our cemetery. Some other areas of the cemetery that we are going to utilize a little bit more is, so we have the creek that runs through the cemetery, and we have some old mausoleums that are really cool in this area, like especially this space right here. And we are looking at, and it's really simple, it doesn't cost a lot, but we look at possibly putting in some of these, the columbarium walls, where we actually, the columbarium's into the hillside, and you kind of create this nice little walk space back through here. And these are just two concepts of how that could be done, utilizing that space. And it's just a wide open space now. And it'll just add another feature and another element to our cemetery. So somewhere next, MSP is going to deliver the first draft. That's supposed to be this month. There'll be a community presentation, kind of get some more input back from the community, finalize the master plan, and then present the final master plan. So sorry to go long on that, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at with that.
When are you hoping to, if it goes through, when are you hoping to get this started or?
First of the year if we can, because part of it includes some of our rules and regulations in the cemetery. So you'll probably be hearing some of the things a lot of cemeteries don't allow some of the things we allow in there. We had the other day, and I hope but some of these people will bring large items out there. And sometimes it's not appropriate for a cemetery. It might be appropriate in their mind, but other people it's a shared use out there. And so we want to kind of get a grip on, what we allow and don't allow out there and make it more of a nice setting and keep it consistent too. But it also helps us with maintenance too. Sometimes we get these shepherd's hooks everywhere out there, and our mower guys, they can get snagged by those. It creates some safety issues. So, but we want to kind of get those rules and regulations up and running as fast as we can, actually. But we also are running out of spaces out there too. So we need to get the expansion ready to go so that we can offer these new spaces to the public.
Can I ask you to think about in that front piece, if you do like an entrance and you do end up doing something over by the house, adding like some kind of like playground equipment for kids? I can't tell you how many times I've been there and there's little kids just running around everywhere. And I just wish there's somewhere that like a caregiver could go swing them on a swing or play on some kind of jungle gym. If it's possible. I know that some people might not like that.
I know that's going to be a tough one.
I really think that if you approach it in the right manner, it could be liked. I know a lot of different cemeteries throughout Ohio that have included kind of like a memorial playground for kids and something that X, Y, and Z grandma passed away and
Well, one of the things we thought about incorporating in that woodland area in the back was maybe some trails back in through there where it could be but as far as playground equipment, we haven't explored that yet, but I can talk to our consultant about it a little bit.
You can put something in there that isn't like what you'd have at Mingo, but I think it would get utilized. There are a lot of, like I said, young families going there and kids just running around. And I understand some people drive through there at a reasonable speed and others don't. So I think it would get used.
Okay, I can talk to him a little bit more about that. I haven't seen too many examples like that. So if you have some, I would love to see
In Northern
those.
Ohio, I've seen them. And when we buried my grandma in April down in Southern Ohio, they had one. And it was tastefully done and it was perfect.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll try to find some pictures.
Hey, Ted.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about the beginning of that proposal there of the barn concept? I'm a bit confused on it becoming a catering thing.
I think right now we're not really we don't want to, just because of the cost involved in it.
Good.
But we looked at what it would take to turn this barn into a place where, after a burial's done, they have some, they'll have a ceremony, private ceremony, and if we offered that in the cemetery. But parking is an issue. We don't have a lot of parking out there. The cost that would it take because this is not this barn is pretty rough and it's pretty primitive, and it would take a lot to turn it around. So we just had them kind of take a look at that and how would that do. And the second concept, we'd have to move the maintenance facility. That'd be an additional cost. So at this point, I don't think it's something we really want to explore too much further. How do you feel about that?
I love that.
Okay.
I love the thought of not exploring it.
Okay. but we wanted to take a look at it up front here. Because we kind of got a lot of feedback that, this is what some cemeteries are doing. We just don't, it doesn't work in our concepts right now.
I guess I was hoping you actually had money put aside that you could take and then do that entrance that we just saw up there.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get a donor at some point because
There you go.
I think everybody, I haven't talked to anybody that would be against that. Plus, it just kind of bring back some of the history there too.
Any other comments or questions about the plan? Yes.
So in regards to putting a lake into the cemetery, is having a water or a body of water of that size, is that going to affect any of the plots for burials just due to like the water and?
It shouldn't, and no, that would not, because we would, that would be planned into it. The biggest thing that would do, we have a pretty flat area back there right now. So what that would probably do is help us with some of the drainage. Because water kind of moves through the site through here and then outlets kind of on the south side of the site. But yeah, that would, and one of the things they looked at doing it, it's probably hard to see, but like this picture right here, they have a columbarium wall right next to the lake. And I don't know if sure the columbariums are just basically, you know, boxes. And it just creates a really nice setting overlooking the lake, and they would keep enough distance away from any in-ground plots that wouldn't be affected. That's a good point though, yeah. We don't live in New Orleans where they sometimes start floating.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, staff comments?
So I'll try to go through this quickly. So you saw the second quarter report and it was late. We're on the third quarter right now too, but just some highlights of that. Our shelter rental, I mentioned earlier, Jim Dandy is that new website that we started this year. We have 70% of the rentals are taken through Jim Dandy right now. It's a lot higher than I expected. People really have taken to that quicker than I thought they would. I was thinking more 50%. So that's kind of good news, and people really like it because they don't have to, they can do everything online.
Do they access it through the City of Delaware's website?
Yeah, there's a link on there that they can access it through. And in this first year, you know, that we got a lot of phone calls like, how do I do this? And our administrative assistants have walked through them patiently. And I think next year it'll be a lot less than that, and it'll just be smoother. So that worked out really good. Park operations done another great job this year, especially downtown with the flower pots and the watering and everything. So we got a lot more compliments on that this year. I think, and the Open Nursery, I need to shout out to them too. They donate all those plants. We water them. So great job on that. Those guys did. I wanted to give you some updates on our park improvements. So pickleball is roaring anymore, and so we put extra lines in out at Smith Park in this picture here. And these are just some of the park levy improvements that we've worked on in the last few months. Mingo Recreation Center, these aren't really glamorous projects but they're needed projects, very needed projects. So in the gym, we just put in a new heating system. There's no air conditioning in the gym, but we put in a new heating system. We worked on some of the vent fans in there. Desperately needed. The old system was probably getting close to 30 years old, and probably was very close, according to the installer, that we were very close to having some bigger issues where, you know, there might have been some carbon monoxide because this system was so old. And so this is, I mean, it looks great. And we should see a big improvement in efficiency and cost out there. Again, it's not a very glamorous project. You're not going to see it, but it will make a huge improvement to that building. We put in some new gym lights. We got rid of the old bulbs and put in the new LEDs in there, a lot brighter, and should use a lot. I think we estimated it would take about 7 years to pay that back, where our electric bill will be lower to cover the cost of those. Plus, we don't have to replace as many light bulbs as we did before. We're good. We got new water fountains. Water fountains were on order in there. Our old fountains are just really looking bad, so that'll be a nice upgrade. You'll see. We've got new pickleball nets, portable nets that you kind of see out in this picture there that we're going to be using out at Smith Park in the summertime and then in Domingo in the wintertime. We got new court striping in the Mingo gym. Some of the things coming up at Smith or at Mingo is that we got new windows, which some of these windows are really bad, so that'll improve our efficiency in heating and air conditioning. Entry sign, kiosks, and directional signs at Mingo. We have some more other indoor lighting that we're going to improve on that'll help with the overall efficiency of the building. And then we have a new HVAC unit going in the Hilborn room too. It's the same age as another old system that we'll be updating. Blue limestone, I'm not sure if you've seen the basketball courts out there. We finished those. They look great. We're going to be working with the Community Coalition to program those, getting leagues out there, especially starting next year. They should be a big improvement out there. They look really nice. I don't know, has anyone seen them yet? They look nice. Central Avenue Trail, I'm not sure if you're familiar. I think we talked earlier about that. We have that final connection from Houck to Lexington. So this is the Houck Road to Trotter's Landing, which is the far west side that we're just finishing up now. So that's it's basically people started using it as soon as the gravel went down. It's people use that a lot. It gets them off the road and away from, there's some safety issues going down that road.
Will there still be one section that's not?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
This section right here from Houck Road, you got Kroger's right here.
Yep.
It's from Houck Road down to Lexington Boulevard.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. We just released the survey crews to start getting topo and site information out there so that we can start doing designs over the winter.
Cool.
So that last remaining section will get everybody off the road down through Central.
Great.
Wow, that's great.
It's terrific.
That would be nice.
Just another Cheshire Road. We applied for a grant for the Cheshire Road. It's a really small section up on the south side of the city where this foggy area was. It's in Liberty Township, and that area there used to be an owner that didn't want the trail. So when the original development went up, this trail stopped here and here. So there's just a small section that this trail didn't go in. So it's part of the Delaware County Trail System. So we applied for a grant, got basically 50% of it funded. So it's about a $50,000 project. $25,000 will be paid for by us, and $25,000 basically through a county grant. So we, being late in the year, we asked and got an extension on it. So we're gonna probably do this in 2019. So that's where that one's at. All the three of these neighbors are in agreement, and they're happy this thing's coming.
Is that just off of 23?
Yep. Just west of the roundabout down here. I can show you.
Yeah.
That would be this section right here. You can see the trail stops right there. It stops right there. So we're going to fill in that gap. It's kind of low-hanging fruit, so we'll get filled in and complete that section. And I think that's it. That was all for staff updates.
And we also wanted to introduce a new student.
Oh, yes.
So,
good job.
We should have did that at the beginning of the meeting, so I do apologize, but this is Bradley Borkover, and he is a senior at Delaware Hayes. Just got accepted into college, Shawnee State, so we're excited about that. You might remember, some of you that have been on for a while, his older brother Wayne was also a board member, I believe about 2 years ago. So
Welcome.
I don't know if you want to say a little bit about yourself. But in the mic.
Yeah, like she said, my name is Bradley Brookover. I'm in our AP Environmental Sciences class, and Mr. Bakunis, my teacher, had asked me to come and be a part of this and see what it's like. I'm really excited to be here. I was excited when he came up and asked me because this is I like being involved. I like being in front of my peers and being able to help and plan and coordinate and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to be able to work with you guys and work with everyone here just to do stuff and be involved in the city.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you.
One thing I will mention also, this is we put the Smith Park Nest report in there. Dick Tuttle does some really good work around the city, and he had a pretty good nesting. Hopefully, if it's interesting, you had a very good nesting season out there at Smith Park. So thanks to Dick Tuttle.
And one more comment, not that I normally get to speak, but our next meeting should be in November, correct?
Yes, odd months.
Okay, so we did this meeting in lieu of the September meeting due to the fair week.
Yes.
So.
And we're staying with the 7 p.m. time?
At this point, yes. I promise I'll give notification if there's any changes.
Is that it for staff?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to member comments.
I just had a couple of questions for Ted. One, any update on the Hidden Valley and the alcohol and?
Yes, the application is still pending with the state. We've got everything in at this point. Yeah, they originally said it was like a 6-week process, but as we went into that, we had to submit this application, and you got some other things that put it to the next step. So I think that, I don't know when the 6 weeks countdown starts, but we started in May, I think, of this year. So not going to happen this year, but.
So the goal is to get it up and running for 2019.
Yeah, exactly. We might still purchase some equipment this year to get it ready to go, so that we're, first of the season, we'll be ready to go.
And I had another one, but I'm drawing a blank, so.
The next meeting is the 20th, is that correct?
Yes, week of third Tuesday. Yes, Thanksgiving week.
Oh,
Yeah, is that going to be an issue? Because then we get into Christmas.
yeah.
And, you know, we can get, as we get closer, we can look and see if there's a light agenda.
It is Thanksgiving week,
Mhm.
but no issue for me, but.
Yeah, that's true. It is that week. I think, like Lane said, if let's see what our agenda looks like, and if it's a lot of things we need to meet on.
It's just the next meeting, which are getting closer to,
The next meeting would be the 18th, would be a week before Christmas, if we did it in December.
a lot of times people don't want to come at Christmas time because they're doing their last minute stuff, but I mean, I'm here. I don't really.
I don't know, does the board have a preference?
I can do Thanksgiving.
I'd rather.
I'm fine with November.
I'm fine with November.
Okay, just look at doing November then.
Okay. If something comes up, I mean, we can.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but is there any update on the smoking ban stuff that we discussed?
So the latest update is that we're looking at a policy that puts distance limits. The council wanted to look at where there's a distance from that, and so it's been sitting there for a while. So I got to kind of refresh my memory just to.
Where there's a distance between what?
It wasn't a full ban in the parks.
It's gonna be so hard to enforce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the language would, I thought we set I wanted to give you the exact distance. That one doesn't have it. We were using 50 feet from, basically, any form of tobacco within 50 feet of recreational facilities of city parks. Tobacco use includes, so and so, and all so playgrounds, athletic fields, occupied areas. I know this board, when we went with that recommendation from this board, but city council looked at revising it to include 50 feet from those areas.
Have you, I guess just an out of the box, and I'm trying to think, I was just at Mingo tonight. If you go 50 feet from playground to tennis court, soccer field, to baseball field, whatever it is, how much space does that actually leave people? I mean, I'm picturing like a small circle here, a small circle here that they have obviously between soccer fields, there's none. I mean, there's no smoking near that. There's no smoking near the baseball fields. There's not 50 feet anywhere around them. Like, where does that actually leave people?
A lot of it is the parking lot.
Right.
And that was kind of, I think council brought that up, that the parking lot, could that be a smoking zone? The parking lots, but that was kind of, and this language hasn't gone to council yet, but it's kind of just, they're at waiting. The agendas have been packed on council lately. So, but yeah, that's where it stands right now. Any comments you want me to take back to council? We have a council member here too.
Is there a better, I mean, like I said, I'm just trying to picture it's gonna be so incredibly hard to enforce if you say 50 feet because it's a visual thing. No one's gonna step off 50 feet. But if you say, would it be possible to say, I don't know, I'm trying to think, grassy areas doesn't do justice because if you go to Smith and you're on the softball areas, it's all paved. So, but again, you're not gonna be able to smoke anywhere near those softball fields. It really just does leave parking lots.
What was the reasoning for wanting a distance as opposed to just a ban? Do they think that people need a place to smoke or they're gonna smoke anyway, or?
I thought they think, well,
They didn't, there's an avid smoker on the, on the council, so that was one thing. And they didn't like limiting people, citizens to not being able to do what they wanted. If they're at a shelter house, family reunion or something like that, they thought they should be able to step to the side and have a smoke. And it really just, the no smoking just was a laid an egg. It was really.
I wonder if it would be easier to designate a smoking area as opposed to getting it a gray area where it's 50 feet from something. Can we?
But shelter houses will be excluded too because they're 50 feet within a playground or a court.
Yeah, and they're
park
listed
is right
as
there.
50 feet from a shelter house, picnic shelters. I think they thought that the overall no smoking was just too restrictive. And it does kind of confine it to the parking lots. That's kind of one area where it can be.
What if we just do that? Confine it to parking lots?
But then
I know there's some exceptions,
Yeah.
but generally that gets people away from, I mean, Mingo, they could still be 15 feet away from a field, but.
Yeah, and I mean.
Well,
that
and
could
some
be.
parts of Mingo too, the parking lot, which butts up right against the softball or the softball, the kid youth fields.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be all those parking spaces that technically aren't 50 feet.
Right.
So then you're gonna have a cigarette butt littered parking lot?
Oh, it's gonna be nasty.
Right. Yeah, that one, it could be,
The way it was written, it wasn't going to get a yes vote.
Sure.
exactly. That's right.
So Ted said, all
Something's
right,
better
reel
than
it back
nothing.
and let's try and come up with something else.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to think of enforcement. You know, if it's obviously not going to be strictly enforced by police, and rightfully so.
Right.
I think that's fine. But if it's restricted by parents like us that are on the field, then you're going to get into distance debates. And you might, I mean,
I know.
someone's going to step it off and, well, no, this is 50 feet. Well, no, it's not really. I mean, it's pointless. Or it's not as useful. I shouldn't say it's pointless. It's not as useful.
Yeah. It would have probably had a hard time passing as it was.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a concession, but I think it's probably worthwhile to get something through.
It just seems like we're getting mixed messages. We want to be a healthy city, but we don't want to be a healthy city.
I know, right? Yeah, it's just
It's hard to tell somebody, all right, so you're not allowed to be here because I don't like your cigarette smoke. You know, I mean, it's like telling somebody to just quit drinking water. I'm not a smoker or drink whatever, but
No, I agree.
You know,
I understand the healthy city comment. Again, I'm not a smoker, but it's like telling people they can't drink alcohol either. And it's not good for you, and a lot of people do it. So I understand the argument, you know, and appreciate it. It just, if we're going to have something enforceable, the distance thing is very.
it's going to make it a little more difficult.
And
right?
we also have to look at some exceptions. Let's say smoking near a ballpark where they're playing t-ball versus smoking near a ball field where they're playing adult league softball. There's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any exceptions there.
You can't make that.
Well, true.
I think I can't remember if the chief was here, but he said they try to stop beer drinking at the adult leagues. And
Well,
they
they
stop for the 33 minutes that the place
Oh,
is there,
yeah.
and then they just start back up. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Would that include signage?
Yes. Yeah, we'd put up some signage. Yeah, the tape measure around there, but
Orange line around.
stay inside this.
Right.
Hang a tape measure on the side. Pull it out as needed.
And would that include the
Or if they
pool?
step out and
yes.
So, like, literally, there is not a space in Mingo other than the parking lot then. I don't know what space there is.
I mean, I don't know either, but it would be
Maybe on
curious to
the
look at
far-
like Google Maps and put 50 feet and like
Yeah.
where is there a pocket that there's not, it's not
Good,
near
let's do
something?
it then.
I just
50
can't
feet.
think of anywhere that there would be.
Not a Mingo, no.
Yeah, I can see it Smith.
Smith would have a lot of space.
Yeah, in the middle,
So much
go
room for
stand in
that.
the middle of the field.
I mean, maybe, but even at Smith, between the football field to the soccer fields, you know, there's nowhere inside that softball area that's gonna work. I mean, there would be, it'd be few and far between it at almost every park.
I think it should be no smoking within 50 feet of another human. No, that won't pass.
So just to give you some idea, we can do Google stuff here real quick. So, well, these fields. So there's 50 feet. And that makes it real tight to there.
And is it only 50 feet when the fields are being used?
No, it doesn't say that. It just says from the
So
fields.
then, not all fields are used at the same
Yeah.
time.
So there's a little bit of a, like just in this area right here, there's a little bit of a zone in there that you could probably smoke in here.
Oh, yep.
Mingo.
There it is.
You know, like I said, the parking lot's definitely. You know, there's some zones. I mean, yeah, so there's some pockets in there where you could actually smoke, but you know, these are all athletic fields back in here. Like even the trail would be kind of difficult in some spots because, is it 50 feet from an athletic field? I mean, there's a little bit of a pocket there, but as you go up here, you know, there's 37 feet between the field.
I guess that was my thought. I mean, yes, there's probably some pockets, but those pockets are so few and far between.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be marked. Nothing's
Right.
going to be marked.
So it's just going to be relying upon parents to say something.
Yeah, and even if there was a complete smoking ban, I think that's how most municipalities have relied on is the people that use the park, and they've been successfully doing it. I mean, so, you know, when people say, you know, you're not allowed to smoke here, I think self-enforced it actually works.
Yeah, I think we just all thought it would be much easier to say,
I agree with you.
it's a smoke-free park. Could you please refrain from smoking? Other than,
I need you to get back 50 feet.
I think, yes, I need you to, excuse me, you're not 50 feet away from this
Right.
soccer field right here. I just think it's more challenging for community members to feel empowered to say something, but.
What if we was to take these pockets of the 50 feet and how they used to have it at the zoo was they had a centralized spot with some benches and then they had the place where you would smoke and put your cigarette butts. And what if we had those that was within those pockets of the 50 feet from anything and just had a couple of those spread about the parks? Or spread throughout the park?
Like smoking zones?
Yeah.
Then we could say, hey, go to the zone.
That would be easier.
It would be so much easier.
And there wouldn't be litter. I mean, if there was a place to put cigarettes. Well, there still would be, but
Less.
maybe less.
I would say it's better than it is now, because now, we were there a few weeks ago, and I picked up 6 by the slides.
Yeah.
So I get what everybody's saying, but I still think if we're gonna leave it the way it is, we still need those smokestacks or whatever those things are called.
Yeah.
The cigarette butt ashtrays, whatever. Yeah.
And there is good signage down there.
Yeah, and if we had the smoking ban, we definitely, you know, put some type of sign up too. I'm not sure what exactly it would say if we have the, you know, the 50 feet. I don't even know if we'd include that 50 feet or, you know, we'd have to, you know, examine that and see how we'd want to word that. But that's where it's at right now anyway.
I think one option, if you want to keep the policy as is, council reacts to people coming and talking at open hearings. So if if everybody showed up and made a case for, hey, Grandview does this, and I talked to the Rex person, blah, 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 and I talked to Westerville, or wherever that has an impact, and, and when they can hear firsthand, not just from Ted, people that makes a difference.
Did they mention the various surveys that were done?
Yes.
At your meeting?
Yep.
Which were pretty much overwhelmingly in favor of it.
I think, well, Ted mentioned it, but I think if there was a concerted presentation, I think that comes more powerful from residents.
Well, and we're getting a new public survey platform coming to the city here soon. This might be a good topic for that platform. Plus, the nice thing about this is, our surveys weren't, I don't want to say they weren't valid, but they were kind of hit and miss. They were at the fair, and I think we were at, First Friday.
And Healthy Kids Day.
Yeah, and Healthy Kids Day. So this other survey, it tracks where this input is coming from, and it can almost make it a scientifically valid survey, where that would have a lot more weight with council, I think, if depending on how that survey outcome came out. So maybe time is on our side on that one, where if we get this survey tool in, we can put this as a question on there, and it goes out there for a week, and we find out what the public really feels about this.
Let me ask, would that I don't know how people are with smoking, but would that say they'd be allowed to go to their car if they've been there for like hours and they can't take it anymore? And if it was smoke-free, could they go to their car and smoke?
No, smoke-free would be smoke-free. I mean, it
That's
wouldn't
what I
be,
was
if you're in the
curious.
park, you couldn't really smoke in there. I mean, again, if you're in a car, and again, I don't know, if someone's out walking on a trail and there's 4 people in the park, and is somebody really going to say something to that person smoking out there? Probably not. But I think where it really would come in is if there's crowds or events going on and someone's smoking in a crowd, then I think it would be self-enforced, and that's where it would really come up.
And I think that's really what it's all about.
Exactly.
I mean, if I'm playing, if I'm at a soccer game with my kids and I see someone smoking by the playground, if it's not affecting me, not that I think it's okay, but I'm not going to walk over and say anything to the person. But when you're in a crowd, I mean, soccer games are a prime example, not just because that's what I've been to recently. You have to sit on one sideline. Parents aren't allowed to sit in the ends, and you can't sit where the team sits, so you're stuck where you're at. And if there's someone smoking around you and you've got a line full of parents, you can't move. You're stuck. So that's where it just becomes a frustration.
Yeah. Well, it's not on the agenda right now on city council to go back there. So, and I think that survey tool is coming soon. So that's something we look at putting on there, and I can find out what the results come out of that.
Do you know when that's doable, I guess you could say? When it can be set up?
Do you know?
The software?
Yeah.
Well, that has to, they're looking at different vendors, and it's gonna have to go through a budget process.
So nowhere soon.
Well, I mean, it's not gonna be this month. It might
Right.
be,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the goal is for next year.
I mean, I guess,
When you say-
if we set a goal, since winter sports typically aren't outside, if you set a goal for, trying to get it done by spring soccer, baseball season.
Yeah, right.
Whatever, is that a realistic goal?
I think that's realistic.
To have the report back and to be able to get in front of council by then, to try to get it for spring sports?
I think that's realistic. I think that would be another shot that, we could try, but I don't know, it just depends on how council would feel about that. So, yeah, I think that's realistic.
I know the big holdout, so I'll have to try to get some inside knowledge.
Okay.
Any other member comments?
A couple. I see there's some congratulations in order. One of our members had, I believe that's given birth to a.
To a human?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, I had a chance to talk with Ted during a progressive dinner with some of our German sister cities. People came over from Baumholder, Germany.
Baumholder, Germany.
I'm kind of glad I pronounced that right. And a couple friends of mine who are disabled brought to my attention there's no handicap parking at the dog park over there behind Meyer. And I mentioned that to Ted, and less than 48 hours later, there was a handicap parking sign posted. So thank you, Ted, for.
Well, I'm sorry it took that long, but
No, that's
good. Well, I mean, as far as like, it should have been up in, when that parking lot went in.
But I think that's the only thing I had. So.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
We are adjourned at 8:16. I can't tell.
8:14.
14.
You watch that. Oh, yeah.